Welcome to the Vergecast for the week of October 21st, 2013. I'm Joshua Topolsky.
I'm Nilay Patel.
And I guess I'm Paul Miller.
I guess you are.
I mean,
you could be a
could
lot
be
of people.
Paul today.
You
I
have
could
like
be-
a series of people.
I'm going to go with Paul
be.
Miller. for now. In fact, when I came into the studio today, I was told, you're sitting in Paul Miller's seat. That was what I was told. So
Wow. Like the ghost of Paul Miller.
Yes.
just
You
haunts
your voice down a notch and just start providing some
You're already going into the Tim Cook
Tim
voice?
Cook. No, that was Paul.
That was Paul being Tim Cook.
No, that's not a Paul. You do a good Tim Cook. You don't do a good Paul Miller.
That's true.
No offense.
Also,
I was
can
just trying to be
Can I just
gentle
say
with
something
it.
before we get going? My hair and my microphone are just aces right now. Like this could not be a better situation for me is in an entire lifetime. This is perfect.
Can we just talk for a second?
Everything is amazing.
Can we just talk for a second about the fact that neither Josh nor Nilay are on this Vergecast, and it's a little weird. It's like a bloodless coup.
I'm a little.
I feel like I need
Concerned.
to be really angry because I'm in Josh's chair.
You should be angry.
And I just I need to be mad about seltzer. I have very strong opinions about old sci-fi movies,
Yes.
and my hair just looks ridiculous all the time. But only to me.
Only to you. Only to you. To everyone else.
There was this
perfect.
one time where Josh actually wiped his face off with a phone. I think it was the.
I don't know.
Oh, that's the most GIFed
It is.
Vergecast moment of all time. And yes, I did just say GIF.
That's
so
get out.
you
how it's
can do
pronounced.
that.
Get out of this. Get
If
out
you're
of this
starting to schwitz, you can do that with.
I could do that with the MacBook.
Yeah.
I wrote a very nice review of the Retina MacBook Pro. I could just rub that all over my face.
So should we talk about that?
So, all right, let's
yes.
talk about Apple.
Let's
So
do it.
Apple had a thing this week. I don't know if you guys are here. Oh, okay, fine. I am actually David Pierce, just so everyone knows. Before we get started here.
And I'm Ellis Hamburger.
Just so no one is confused.
And this is Paul Miller.
Yeah, I'm still Paul Miller. No, I'm Chris ZIEGLER. You may know me from a little show called The Verge Mobile Show, which we do weekly on Tuesdays.
Haven't heard of it.
Little pimp
Burn.
for my
Nice.
programming.
Nice.
Yeah, Apple.
So so I want to know what was like. So I was actually at the event, but
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
the watching the Twitters and the news and the stuff during the event? What was the mood like? Because I feel like an hour after the event ended, everybody just was like, "Oh, that was boring." But did everybody say that during the event? Were people into it? What was going on?
What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think it played out exactly like every other Apple event in recent memory, where it's like there's this sense of where's the one more thing at the end, and then you go into this quiet reflection period, and then you're like, oh wait, I am actually going to buy everything they just showed, and then you give up and buy it. And then they have a record quarter. This cycle just repeats itself every year.
Well, but the iPads they went down. They sold fewer iPads than they did a year ago in the same quarter. So that's
That's what they're saying. We hit peak iPad, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what whoever they is. They is like Gene Munster.
Are you
He's
guys?
like, but they're gonna make a television, and then everything will be terrific.
Are you
Yeah.
guys going to get an iPad Mini with Retina? Or are you going to get an iPad Air? What's the story?
I'm gonna get the Retina. When I got them, I had the iPad 3, and I kept dropping it on my face when
Yeah.
I was in bed, which was pretty
Done
much
that a
the
lot
only
of
time I
times.
The
used
big
it.
one is painful. The small
And-
one less so.
That's true.
And it wasn't just the face; it was the indentation it was making in my upper body,
Your sternum.
right here. Yeah.
I used to
It
try
was
and roll up the smart cover and put it right here, and it
Yeah.
would just tip over and hurt me. Like it was really wonderful.
And it's not quite the front edge of the MacBook Air, which could cut cheese, or
And has.
people you don't like. But so anyway, not only that, but I just don't like moving my head to look at something that's the size of a textbook. I'm really into the softcover book size for reading something, whether it's an article or a book. And so I inevitably ended up selling it while I was actually on a trip to San Francisco. I just impulse sold it on eBay from San Francisco.
I was just hoping you were gonna say I went out on the street corner. I was like, iPad for sale, and somebody's like, mine.
You know what it's like to be a tech nerd. I mean, when you need something, you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you need to get rid of something, you need to get rid of
I
it.
had to get rid of it. I took in my hotel room. I took photos
Nice.
of my iPad 3rd generation. I went to the Apple store, bought a mini, and you know what? I don't use it very much.
I have to say there is a crazy black market for gadgets among Verge employees. Like
Yeah.
constantly,
Yeah.
like
People
Dante
have no
D'Orazio, one of
idea.
our reporters, is constantly selling some full frame camera on Craigslist.
I just
Yeah.
sold a
And I'm
Pebble
like, okay.
to Aaron Saporis involving international shipping, which is fun.
Did you do some Western Union transfers and?
We did some underhanded dealings, and then he still had to pay this enormous. It was ridiculous. He had to pay like $30 in tariffs when he took delivery of
Because
it.
you have to like smuggle it in on a cargo ship and then like
Yeah.
blackmail a dude to take it for you basically.
Right. The problem is that I'm not a drug dealer in my day job, so I'm not familiar with all these
Well,
tactics.
that's an enormous mistake. You're
right. And I also don't run a chop
You
shop.
should rethink a lot of things about
I
your
need
life.
to rethink my entire life.
Yeah.
So
do.
to answer the question, finally, I'll be getting the Retina. So what I found out was that I didn't use it much for reading, or I used paper to draw stuff whenever I wanted to sketch things. But aside from that, I just really like my phone so much. I like being in bed and holding it 4 inches from my face and reading whatever I want to read and catching up on Twitter. And I never am reaching into my bag. But when I am reaching for it is when I want to play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on iOS for 30 hours straight.
That game is terrible.
Are you kidding me?
Just you can keep moving. That game is terrible.
Okay,
I
we're
played
gonna have
like 4 minutes of that
we're
game,
gonna
so I
have a long
probably
talk.
can't say that with any actual.
We're going to have a long
accuracy,
talk about
but-
Knights of the Old Republic. One, to specify, not two, after the Vergecast, and it's going to get ugly.
It's going
but,
to come to blows. We are going to war.
I love the iPad Mini as a game console. I think it is fantastic. And if you look at something
yeah.
like XCOM, which is a great game, it's a AAA game that hit iPad not too long after it hit consoles. It was just a matter of months, which for Knights of the Old Republic took 10 years.
Right.
And the ironic thing is that it doesn't actually work well on the Mini. It
needs more horsepower, right?
It needs more horsepower. And so I'm going to go get the iPad Retina Mini with all the horsepower I could ever want and just play retro games, play Knights of the Old Republic, play XCOM, because it is just such a great size and it is so thin and so portable. Being on a plane with the set, was it a
7.9 inches.
7.9 inch screen is just fantastic. It reminds me of having just this massive Game Gear in my hands. How big was the screen on the Game Gear?
It was tiny.
It was
2
probably like an
inches.
inch and a half.
Are you sure?
It was really
Yeah, I'm
small.
I
We're gonna
remember
look
it
this up.
being bigger.
Well, no, I also remember like the
No,
Nexus
it was
1
so
being
small.
huge. But like if you look at a Nexus 1 now, it's like
3.2
really
square
small.
inches. Remember when square screens were a thing? Like,
Wait,
that was like
are you
what
telling
you
me
had?
that the Game Gear screen was smaller than my iPhone screen?
Yeah, like a lot smaller.
That's outrageous. Anyway,
But the Game Gear was like.
I
this
love the
big.
iPad Mini as a game console, and I think Apple's starting to really embrace that. So I will be buying that
Look
one.
at that. There's your Game Gear, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Looks
Oh,
real
there's
nice.
some classics.
today,
They got Mortal Kombat up there.
Now, do you guys
The
remember
backlit Sonic, it just cannot be beat. You could play it in the dark under your covers,
my
hiding
favorite
from your
thing?
parents.
My favorite thing about the Game Gear was that they had like the impossible to get white model that I think was only a Japanese import. And if you wanted to spend like $700 or $800, you could get it from Japan. And
By which I'm assuming you did that.
You know what I wanted from Japan was the Wonder Swan. Have you heard of that?
No.
Worst
What?
named console in the history of
I
mankind.
remember you. Yeah, I remember you talking about
Wait,
this.
was the thing?
Look at this.
Oh, man.
It's the coolest. It had all the.
Why does it have 2 D-pads? That makes no
It
sense.
actually is 2.5, Chris. They had all the
10
what's the
directions.
company SNK or Neo Geo. They had all those arcade games on it.
That's
It was the
awesome.
Bandai Wonder Swan color.
So surprising that name never made it out of Japan.
I'm so glad we hit this tangent. I've just
So-
been waiting.
So look, iPad Mini. Do you
Yeah.
also own a Kindle Paperwhite or no?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you own a Kindle?
I do, which is why I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up buying an iPad Air.
Right. Because one of the big propositions for the Mini is there was actually a Wonder Swan on screen. One of the big
beautiful.
propositions for the Mini is, like you say, it's like soft cover mode, right, for reading. And for me, that's the Paperwhite. So
Yeah.
the iPad Air probably makes more sense.
Do you guys
although
still read a lot?
I'm trying. I'm reading more than I used to. I used to not read anything.
Yeah. I did this thing where for 2 years I read only the Hunger Games. Those are the only books I read over the course of
That's
2
not
years.
something you admit
And
on the
everything
air.
else. Well, so I read like on some level like
There was
read
a
for
girl
living.
involved, I
So I
think.
read a lot of news. I read like magazine stuff. I read a lot of magazines, but I didn't read a book other than the Hunger Games for like 2 years. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to read books. So now I'm reading the Circle, Dave Eggers' new book. And it's like weird reading a book. I get really antsy. I'm like, I need to read about something else right now. And then I'm like, no, it's just more book. It's very strange.
It's really scary to me that as somebody who ostensibly reads and writes more than most people, it's hard to get through a few paragraphs. And, there are a few writers I can read, like, for example, Stephen Levy, who I can get through the piece. I get through it and I
Good job,
read it.
Stephen Levy.
I got
Yeah,
through the
that's
piece.
the start.
That's something.
But there's just, I feel like we've trained ourselves so hard to always be needing another stimulus. And if the stimulus doesn't come, if Growl doesn't notify you, if your pocket doesn't buzz,
Right.
if you don't get some type of TweetDeck notification, you're like, what's going on? I feel empty.
Inside. Like
right.
you feel like soulless. Like,
and so it's hard to really immerse yourself in a book when you're just expecting that. I think the last book I really, really got into was Ready Player One, probably because it played just like a video game. And so I was reminded of how much fun it is to imagine these worlds for yourself. But I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about that.
No, it's true. And I mean, that's why I love the Paperwhite. And like, I think the Paperwhite iPad Air combination is kind of perfect, especially because the iPad Air now is super portable. It's like, it's ridiculous how light and thin and
truly
good
you
that
fit
feels.
in a manila envelope now.
I held
that
it.
was
It
the
really
original
can.
idea, right?
Yeah, well, that was the MacBook Air initially,
that's
wasn't
right.
it? I think now
That's
it's
right.
like
It was
they have
the
the
MacBook
commercial
Air.
where there's like a pencil and then the iPad appears
With Bryan
beyond
Cranston.
it with Bryan Cranston. I mean,
Because
look,
why not?
If it's
Because
good enough for
reasons.
Walter White, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. No, but so like when I want to read, I read on the Paperwhite for exactly the reason you just described. Because if I don't get, like, if I get one Twitter notification,
It's
I'm
game
done.
over,
It's
yeah.
over. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not reading anymore, and that was that.
Which
but
is the worst gesture on the iPad, by the way, is the Minority Report style fingers on the screen, swipe to the side for
Yep.
multitask.
Yep, it's real dangerous.
You could just, at any moment, reading a book.
No, but then I'm like, oh, I'm in Twitter. I might as well check my email. And then I'm like, oh, I'll just go look at the internet. And then I'm like, oh, I'll just go watch TV. And somehow I'm like,
Before
I
you know
veered
it, you're
way
like,
away.
what was I even doing?
Yeah, right. No, it happens all the time. But so the Paperwhite I can actually use to read. That's the only way I'm
You're
getting
focused.
through this Dave Eggers book.
This is why I use a Chromebook, by the way, because you can't do anything but write. same reason.
That's fair. Which we should also talk about Chromebooks, because there may be a new one for you. But so the reason I think the iPad Air is awesome is, like, for all the reasons you love the Mini, I think the Air is even better. Like, they're less different now, which is kind of weird because they have the same resolution screen, they have the same processor,
Same guts.
It's graphically the Air should be better, but like I don't think most games are like crippling the iPad as it is. But I don't know. It's like $100 for a bigger screen, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think most people are going to buy the Mini, even though it's way more expensive than it should be. But I'm
Starts
probably
at
gonna end up buying
$399,
it.
right?
Yeah, which is a lot.
You know what else starts
To
at
bump that up
$399? The iPad
$70.
2.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you
That's
can either buy
just a riot.
new hardware or old hardware. You choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Before we go to the iPad 2, which is interesting, and Sean had a great piece on this. So tell me why you think you like the iPad Air more. It's the same amount of pixels. It's
Right.
the same guts as the iPad Mini. It just is a screen size different. They even made the bezels exactly the same. Why do you? I mean, is bigger just better?
So for me,
Or-
it's 100% a use case thing. Like if
Uh-huh.
my small, so I use an iPad and an iPad Mini pretty regularly, and when I'm on the iPad, I'm always either playing a game or watching a movie. 95% of the time, I'm doing one of those two things. On the iPad Mini, I'm reading. And
Okay.
the Paperwhite has totally replaced that for me. It's just
Yeah.
a better reading device.
Yep.
And the bigger iPad, just by virtue of having more screen real estate, and this might be less true now that there's a Retina Mini and it has the same number of pixels and same super long battery life and same processor. But having more screen is just, I think, objectively better for watching a movie and for playing a game. And that's like, those are the two things I need a big tablet to do.
Right. And
That's it.
the iPad 3 and,
And
iPad
magazines.
4
Magazines look so good on that big
and
iPad.
honestly, the Wall Street Journal app has taken a lot of heat in the past, but I actually love it. Like, I think it looks and works great on the iPad. Don't love the iPhone.
Just
app,
reading
of
about
course.
your stocks all day.
Yeah,
Bye.
I'm on a beach trading stocks. No, so the iPad 3 and iPad 4, I think that the use case, the value proposition for the Mini was particularly strong with versus the 3 and 4, because the 3 and 4 are such thick, heavy tablets.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
thick, heavy tablets.
Yeah, but I mean, like they are, and also like
They were cool.
5 years ago, somebody would have been like, "Oh my god!"
Exactly.
I have a really serious question for
Okay.
you. Does the iPad Air eliminate the air gap on the display of the 3 and 4? Because it's insane on the 3 and 4.
So these rooms. Let me just paint you a picture of this room at the Apple event.
Yeah.
It was a big black tent with two wooden tables in the middle of it, and so and 100,000 people all with big cameras
Yeah.
shooting things. So I have no idea.
Okay.
It's like I got to look at it and kind of go like this
Yeah.
for a few minutes,
Yeah.
and it looked really nice, but. I don't know. I hope so. But
My
again, like
guess-
every single manufacturer on the planet is like, we've solved reflections on screens. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you didn't.
Yeah.
That is a lie.
Is this a term I'm not familiar with?
Well, it's like, how on the iPhone and on any high-end phone these days, like there's no gap between the glass and the actual
Right. It's like
display.
laminated to it, right?
Right. And on the
And so
on
the point
iPad
is what that
3 and
does is
4
that makes it so it doesn't reflect light as much because there are just fewer surfaces and there's
Fewer,
fewer
like,
gaps for it to
layers.
reflect. Right.
Yeah.
And so the closer you get those two things together, the less reflection
Got
you'll
it.
get. And so Amazon comes out and they're like, you can read our tablet on the beach just like our Kindles. And it's just a lie. And I'm pretty sure Apple says the same thing and it's just a lie.
Yeah.
Because it always is. But I hope so.
Yeah.
It'd be neat.
Yeah.
And they've mostly done it with the iPhone. Although
Right.
that thing I have to turn the brightness all the way up before I can see it outdoors at all.
And then all you're seeing is your fingerprint smudges.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
It's lovely.
Which I've heard are worse on the 5S than on the 5. I don't know why that would be, but I've heard talk that it doesn't repel fingerprints as well.
It's not as, quote, oleophobic.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so Ellis, you wrote a thing about Microsoft and Google and iWork.
Yeah.
That we got. I like to take credit for the fact that Microsoft's Frank Shaw got super duper angry about the whole thing. I think
And why do
you
you
made
take
him
credit
get
for
very
this?
angry because it was. I've decided it was your piece. So tell me
No,
about this
dude,
piece.
my
you
piece
wrote.
was after that.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, he
but
just
Frank
saw it
Shaw.
coming.
Yeah, well, Frank
He
Shaw.
was like, I bet Ellis is writing something.
he
I got to get out in front of this.
No, he
He
went
DM'd
forward
me.
in time about 24 hours, saw the piece, then went back in time and wrote the article.
So here's the
Smart guy, that Frank
thesis
Shaw.
of the piece, which I clearly didn't communicate well enough to many of our friendly Verge commenters. But in a nutshell,
Wow, this is 900 comments.
yeah,
Are
people are
really?
mad.
They're real mad.
You know, actually, they're not mad at me.
That's
They're
actually the
mad
first
at
time
each
that's ever
other.
happened
Yeah,
on
they're
our
mad
site,
at each
so.
other, which means I did something right. Right? I created a comparison with valid sides. Hopefully,
They're just,
Valid
they're
arguments
just
on both
mad at
sides.
the world.
this is true. So anyway, my argument was that Apple, for a lot of Apple features since the days of Steve Jobs, they want the marketing to be on point for everything. Remember when he
Right.
pitched the iPhone, he said, it's a phone. It's an internet browser. It's a communication, or it's an iPod. It's a phone. It's a communications device, or whatever it was that he said.
Yeah, they're
He's-
always super clear on like this is what
here's
this
the
is.
messaging. He's laying out the very specific
Right.
scenarios when you're going to use this product, and it's arguable that Apple is or isn't afraid of the Surface. And
I mean, they
Microsoft.
certainly don't seem to be afraid. Tim Cook
But-
got up there and just like burned the Surface left and right for an hour.
So
It was
let's say
crazy.
they're not afraid of the hardware. What if they're saying maybe their marketing is a little on point with here is the next generation of productivity tools. It's a tablet or it's a tablet hybrid or what have you. And before Apple made iWork free, they couldn't really say that out of the box, this is for word processing and spreadsheets and running your business. And now in a second, they probably lose very little money on making those apps free, even though some of them were $5 or $10.
Right.
All of a sudden, Apple and Microsoft can now both say, here's our productivity machine out of the box. You can do whatever you need to do, whether it's making a photo book or making a book report or a document. So that was kind of my idea behind why they did that. They're thinking about this very holistically in terms of the scenario and the way that they're going to market this to people. Like their sizzle reel they had a guy sticking out of a wind turbine using his iPad doing work.
Yeah.
They're saying this isn't just for
And there's like
Temple
a dude on
Run.
a farm.
And a woman
Right.
hanging
Guy
off
underwater.
a cliff.
And a woman hanging. That was awesome. That last
my
shot.
jaw
I was
dropped.
like, every
Yeah.
time I see those,
When
I'm
I
like,
saw
you
that.
are a crazy person.
Not possible before the iPad. You
No,
couldn't
of
hang
course
off
not.
a cliff.
Nope. There
Now
were
you
no
can.
tents before the iPad.
Nope.
That's actually true. The iPad invented tents.
Yeah, so Tim Cook said, we're turning the market on its ear by offering both Mavericks and our, quote, premium, which I think a lot of people would disagree with, productivity apps for free.
I mean, the point is, right, I think that Apple is, there's still sort of this idea coming, especially from other companies, but also just out there in the world, that the iPad is a consumption device. Like that was that was the burn at the beginning, and I think it's, it's objectively
burn
less and less
from
true.
competitors and pundits. Right.
But that was like the thing everybody said was like, oh, it's good for watching movies, but it's not going to replace your laptop. And I think Apple thinks it can and will. And this is their way of saying, well, you want to do email and documents and spreadsheets.
Well,
Here you go.
what's really funny to me about this whole thing is that I think one of the biggest things that has enabled the iPad to become a productivity device is the third-party keyboard cover, and it was widely
And we thought they were going to make one.
Yes,
yeah,
and instead, they spend they spent like 20 minutes on iWork or something. They spent a long time talking about it.
They spent long. They did like individual feature demos for each one, where they were like making fun of Eddie Q, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah,
actually, that was the best part of the whole thing.
That was pretty good. Yeah, where they kept adjusting his invitation, and they didn't reveal any accessories that help make the iPad a better productivity device. So they're still, I guess, relying on third-party vendors, or assuming that people are just going to use their fingers.
Dude, iPad Pro, it's coming. It's
iPad
coming.
Pro, yeah.
There is.
You think?
I can't think of a reason that they would decide to call it the iPad Air unless there was an iPad Pro coming.
So I feel like
no
Apple
good
says, "Hey, David, we already have the iPad Pro. It's the MacBook Air."
That's
bro.
literally what they told me. I was standing in line, and we were talking to somebody in Apple PR, and we were just like joking around, talking about rumors and stuff. We got there at like 7 o'clock in the morning, so it was like dark outside, and we're just standing there in the cold talking. And we were like, "So, how about that big iPad?" And like they got very sort of stern. All of a sudden, looked at us. They were like, "We already make a big iPad. It's called the MacBook Air." We were like, "Oh,
Oh, you're saying it's going to be bigger and have a keyboard or some new input device?"
yes."
Well, you have
I
to admit
totally
this.
agree with you. I mean, and Apple used to make a keyboard for the iPad. Like that long ago, they made a keyboard dock, and it was like a big thing that they sold with the iPad.
They remade it.
And they might, but
think they brought
it's
it back.
totally absent from their marketing. They don't talk about it. It's not really there. But it just doesn't make sense that it's not coming. Like
Well-
that's such an obvious thing for them to do, and it's not like. There are keyboards everywhere. I was on the plane coming back from that event and looked
Everyone
around,
has
and there were like a dozen people on my flight with iPads and keyboards.
Yeah.
And
It's such an obvious
It's so
thing.
obvious. Yeah, just make a smart cover with a keyboard on the inside.
Yeah.
Logitech's is fantastic.
I've heard
Yeah.
this, yeah. But here's my one
They should
thing.
just buy Logitech.
They should.
I mean,
just buy
we've heard the
Logitech.
rumors they're going to do the gaming controller together. Logitech
Yeah.
makes a pretty good universal remote.
And
They should
Logitech
just
is
buy
not
Logitech.
Logitech is not in the best shape.
they're not doing so great.
They just offloaded Harmony recently to generate some cash.
I mean,
But-
this is definitely happening, right? So they're just going to buy Logitech.
Yeah.
That's
I
just
mean,
write that down.
You heard it here
announcing
first.
right now.
You heard it here.
But so,
Breaking news.
Here's the thing about an iPad Pro is you start to run into price pressure between because obviously you're pricing it above the iPad Air, and the bottom of the line MacBook Air is $999,
Right.
and they're easy to find for $899. Best Buy always has them on sale for $899.
But there's
So-
that like $699, $749 sweet spot where Apple doesn't sell anything.
Yeah.
Like you can buy a super spec'd out iPad, and
64
they don't
gigs.
release the SKUs, I guess, but I can't imagine very many people buy those. But like if they could sell an entry level product at that price,
Yeah.
it's like that just makes sense. And they have everything
Yeah.
else up to like $5,000, but not that. It
Right.
seems mostly I just want one. I don't know why. I don't know what I'd do with it because I have a MacBook Air that I use all the time, but I want one.
So let's talk about this real quick. One of Microsoft and one of Microsoft's arguments here is that you cannot be productive unless you can have Windows side by side. How do you guys feel about that?
I
Do you
have
feel
never
like
once in my life put two documents side by side. I don't know what the use case
Really?
is for that.
That's what they
I do
keep
that
saying.
constantly.
They say it in Surface Marketing. They say it in Shaw's
So what do you
post.
what do you guys do that for?
Well, when you're copy pasting, when you're
This is a lot of copying and
This is
pasting.
what Alt Tab is for, bro. I
No,
mean,
my-
I never
I
use
don't
Alt Tab.
you never use Alt Tab.
Tar and feather me.
So what do you just click on Windows? What do you do?
I do gestures.
Ah.
No, I do this. I mean, really, most of my stuff is in Chrome.
You
and
keep
then
each
you
window
just
in its own
expose
space.
all day.
No, I click in my dock over here.
This is the worst.
Wow.
I do some productivity though. I got my Alfred set up.
I'm done with you. Alice.
For
I have
those
nothing
who
left to say
don't
to
know
you.
about Alfred, Alfred is the
Alfred is amazing.
coolest
And Dieter Bode knows everything about
launcher.
Alfred. So email him,
Basically, it
Dieter@theverge.com.
replaces Spotlight. So when you hit Command Space, you can type in basically whatever you want, whether it has to do with your own computer or the web.
What happens if I Alfred Ellis Hamburger?
And I got David
I can
stuff in
Amazon
my Alfred.
search for Ellis Hamburger.
Yeah, and you get local files that come up. You can do custom searches. So I think a lot of us at The Verge, we have one set up where you hit V, then space, then you type in your term, and it
Yep.
does a Google site search for The Verge.
Yeah.
All sorts of cool stuff. So anyway,
Alfred's awesome.
you
it's
were
great.
about to say
Okay,
that
well, so
you
wait.
do the multitasking.
So I
like
do
that.
all the time, like research thing I'm writing. Just that's where I live,
Right.
and I use Divi to do it on the Mac. It's great. But so while we're talking about Windows, was kind of a big week for Windows and Windows Phone and Microsoft and Nokia also. And so there was the Surface 2. That was this week.
Yep.
And the Surface Pro 2. Nokia did stuff at Nokia World. New tablets, new phones, apps. Instagram is coming to Windows Phone. Life-changing.
Yes. And Vine.
And Vine, which looked awful. Am I crazy? Like I missed that a little in the like we were fine to Apple, but I saw it and I was like, oh no.
They're trying to do like a Windows Phone looking Vine, and it just doesn't work.
They're calling it Vinay. Sorry, that was a horrible joke.
No, but okay. So the Nokia stuff I think is super interesting.
Yeah.
Like mostly because it doesn't make any sense to me.
Cyan
Like,
is
why?
back. I mean, seriously,
you brought it back.
The
Just
20,
you,
I know,
by yourself.
Every time they
the
release,
color.
every time they release a phone not in cyan, I complain about it, and then the next phone is in cyan, and so now the 2520 is prominently in cyan.
Yeah. So
That was also the best color for your character in Halo 1. Let it be known. Cyan. That was the first time I learned that word.
Nice.
I can't refute that.
Okay. So does any of that stuff matter? Do we care about Nokia? Nokia, I feel like, is this weird dead company that's about to get bought by Microsoft, and they make things, but they might not make things anymore. But these things exist, but I don't know how long they'll exist. I'm very confused by Nokia right now.
You know, I think that they felt like they needed to compete in the phablet market. If Nilay were here, he'd literally punch me for saying phablet. But
you should punch yourself for saying phablet.
But
we need a better word.
should.
Can we come up with a better word for phablet right now?
extremely large phone,
No.
XL phone.
XL
I don't know.
Just X phone.
But you
People
know,
know.
Since the original Galaxy Note, they've just gotten such amazing traction with that device that everybody feels the need to do something in that form factor. The problem is that I think a big part of the value it's like the 10th time I said value proposition during the show. I apologize.
You've been reading the Wall Street Journal too much.
I have. One of the big selling points for the Note is, of course, the stylus. And you lose... the only thing that the 1520 does for you is give you a larger display. And
It's enormous.
Yeah, and Microsoft touts the fact that they've tweaked Windows Phone in GDR3, or they're calling it Update 3, I think.
Update 3.
They've tweaked it so that like you get a third column of home screen icons, and in some of the apps, I think like in the People app, you can see more people at the same time. So, you know, they've made some minor tweaks, but it's not like they've totally rethought the way you interact with the device based on the 1080p 5 whatever inch display.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing people missed about the Galaxy Note was what everybody seemed to like about the Note. I'm amazed constantly by how many people I see with Galaxy Notes using the pen.
They're everywhere, yeah.
It's not just a big screen. Like, that's neat, but every phone has a big screen now. Like, people actually want to use the pen.
Yeah.
It's
which
like
is
some
crazy.
type of nostalgic human fetish for wanting to have a notepad, like a digital notepad.
You know who loves...
Same with the watch.
You know who loves Styli is Dieter Bohn.
Yeah?
Really?
He has come this close to buying every generation of Galaxy Note. And
Well,
I think
where
what-
is
Was he a
Steven
Trio
Greenwood
fan
here?
bro back in the day?
big Trio fan. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
And,
I mean, Dieter ran TrioCentral.com.
Yes.
Like, we know that's actually a
He
thing.
ran that
happened.
program.
And I think the only thing that has stopped him from getting a Galaxy Note 3 is the fake leather stitching on it, which
It
is
doesn't even feel like leather.
no, it doesn't. It's a plastic, but it looks they have like
It's
fake
just the
plastic.
stitching.
Yeah,
Not even the rest of it, just
it's
the
the
stitching.
worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. But anyway, back to Nokia. To me, I actually think the biggest deal with the 1520 is the 20 megapixel sensor, which is like a compromise between like a traditional camera phone sensor and like the 41 megapixel beast that doesn't make the phone thicker.
Yeah, it doesn't have a giant ass hump.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll have to see how those pictures come out.
Well, and
But-
it shoots in RAW now, which I actually think is a way
and
bigger
they
deal
have,
than
they have
anybody
fake
realized.
Litro too.
Oh yeah, the refocus or
Yeah,
whatever, right?
yeah.
But it's okay. It's not fake Litro. They want you to think it's fake Litro. You just get to do it once, and then you hit save, and you're done, and that's it.
How
you
does
don't
it
get to
work
go
exactly
back.
Oh,
for
really?
those of us
So
that don't know?
basically, it's called refocus lens, right? Is that what it's called?
Something like that. Yeah.
Sure. So it's it basically if you have something in the foreground and the background. So if I have like my drink and then Chris,
Right.
it takes two pictures. One where it focuses on my drink, one where it focuses on Chris, and then one where it like or I guess it takes three pictures, and then one where it like super exposes and gets everything in focus. So you can then go through and it processes, and you can like I can tap on Chris and be like, I wanted to focus on Chris in this picture, or I can be like, no, just kidding, my beer, or everything in focus.
It's almost
Chris
like
is
if the
stupid, I just
shutter's
wanna see my
fast
beer.
enough, you don't even need a Litro. if the shutter's fast
Kind
enough
of,
that
but
you can just take
the
two.
whole fun of the Lytro is like this cool reveal when you get to look at the picture later.
Yeah,
Whereas
it's
now you
interactive.
just
You
do
can
it
tap
on the
on it.
camera, you hit save, and then you get the picture you want. So it's like it's a neat way to not have to make sure you're focusing on the right thing, but it's not Lytro.
Right.
Also, Lytro needs to come out with a new Lytro.
Yes.
That just needs to happen.
It's been out forever.
Yeah,
So
I don't-
my
like, what are they
local
doing?
Target, I don't know if it's true with every Target, but my local Target in Chicago has like a permanent like Lytro kiosk.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't
And-
seen a
man.
Lytro. I have seen zero
They just-
Lytros in the
did
wild.
They just forget. That it was there?
Yeah, it was, like it's been chock full.
kiosk over there?
It has like underneath.
Are they selling hot dogs?
Underneath
the guy who
the
managed
kiosk,
it quit.
It's a
they have
Lytro.
they have like a cabinet, a glass cabinet, completely chock full of Lytros. I'm
Wow.
sure they haven't sold a single one because at the top of the kiosk it says $399.99. Who is walking into Target with $400 to spend?
Very fair.
And you know they just want to blow it on this weird looking camera.
Looks like a stack of golf balls.
I want it. It's $400. I'm in.
It's shiny.
Yeah.
It's
our John, our producer, one of our many producers. I see like 8 producers back there right now.
Picture it,
comments
he's
that it
like
looks
a
like
genie.
a kaleidoscope. Yes,
It is like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently that was the part of the design aesthetic. Like I always ask them every time I meet with Lytro. So Lytro is constantly, they're big on like calling us and being like, hey, something's happening. And their thing is just like, we work on your Mac better now.
When in fact they just need a new camera.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
That looks
and
like
I'm
a
always
camera.
like, just make a camera that looks like a camera.
Yeah.
Or
And
sell your
also-
stuff to somebody else. That
And
makes
also
cameras.
works when you have less than like the sun like shining directly on the object that you're shooting.
Yeah.
They increased the resolution, didn't they? Which was good at least. Or did they not?
Listen,
Am I
don't
mistaken?
apologize for Lytro.
Okay. You know, I'm an optimistic
Lytro,
guy.
Get it together, Lytro.
So anyway,
Get it
the
together.
tablet, the 2520.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. For
It's
some
not a
reason,
Lytro.
it is definitely not a Lytro. I am weirdly intrigued by the Dell Venue Pro, the $299
Yeah.
running full Windows 8.1.
I have to say, I'm amazed by how well Windows works on a small screen like that. Like the live tiles and stuff look and work great when you can just like use your 2 thumbs to mess around. It's
Well,
really
it
nice.
kind of raises the question why Windows Phone and Windows RT aren't the same thing, but that's another story for another day.
I think that question may have been raised already.
Yes.
By 1 or 2 people.
So my question is, why would I buy the 2520 or a Surface 2? I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, look, different strokes for different folks, but there's something very sexy about full Windows 8.1 in an 8-inch form factor for $299. You know, and I have no need for it. I have no need for Windows at this point in my life, but I still might just buy one to mess around with it.
That's fair.
I'm not going to buy a 2520, even though it's in cyan.
What?
Maybe I will.
You will. I think it's crazy that they're selling it LTE only. Like you can't buy it with Wi-Fi. That just blows my mind.
And AT&T is going to sell it, right? I think.
Yes.
Is that the story?
Kind of assume so.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to sell the 1520 and the 2520, I
But
think.
does anyone buy tablets at carrier stores? Is that a thing?
No, I mean, like, for a long time, I thought that was going away, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
they tried briefly to, like, carrier brand tablets, and then they were like, wait a second, nobody buys tablets this way. And then they kind of, like, stopped promoting that, and then now this.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of make sense. Like with the family plan buckets and stuff
Yeah.
where it's just $10 more to add on a tablet. It's kind of
Yeah.
a great deal. And
Yeah.
if Nokia pulls this off, it's really kind of awesome.
So what
Because-
I've actually started doing is I just have a spare SIM that's activated with the $10 add-on. So like, if I need some device that I need data on that is not my phone, I pop it in.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Tom Warren just corrected me that refocus, the Nokia thing, you can change it later.
After the
so
fact.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Blew up your
Suck
entire
it,
argument.
Lytro. Nokia wins.
Tom's like, David, but you're wrong. You're just wrong.
Yeah. So while everybody else did cool stuff this weekend, BlackBerry kind of like blew everything all the time.
Oh,
it seems
man.
like. So tell me, Ellis, what happened with BlackBerry this week?
So after a very prolonged rollout for their iOS and Android versions
That's
of BlackBerry
like an enormous
Messenger.
understatement, by the way. It's BBM
All right,
for
tell
iOS
her
has been
how it
planned
is.
for like years.
For like a year, yeah.
Yeah.
When did they originally tease it?
Oh, God,
Earlier,
I don't
it
even
was
remember.
earlier this year, but like they've been saying for years that various people have been saying for years that either it's in the works or like they should do it. Like it's been in the conversation for many months.
Right.
Right,
Well,
so
and it
it's-
was always like an obvious thing that they should do.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the only good thing you have, BlackBerry. You
Right.
should sell
Right.
it to other people.
And then it accidentally was released like 3 months ago, and then they pulled it back.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's out, but like everything else these days, that works on a server and is a messaging or mail app, you have to hop on a wait list. But what's crazy is that 10 million people downloaded the app already.
That is pretty wild.
Which is insane.
That is insane. That's a lot of people.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
No, I mean that's
a new app.
That's a crazy number.
I mean that's the kind of numbers a company looks for after like a year or two with their app.
Yeah.
That's all changed in the wake of Instagram. But it's pretty crazy demand. People are still like the brand. They still remember what it was like to instant message on their phone for the first time
with an 8-digit hex code, because that's how you want to contact.
There was
people.
something nice about it, and the keyboard was the fastest in the world.
Yeah.
Tapping away on that
I
little
still
plastic
miss my
thing.
BlackBerry keyboard every once in a while.
Yeah.
I was moving, and in the process of moving, found a box of old phones, like half of which had QWERTY keyboards because
Yeah.
I was obsessed with
Yeah.
keyboards. And I just pulled it out and was just like messing around on the BlackBerry, and I was like, God, this keyboard is good.
Yeah, the Curve 8300 was
Yep.
my baby.
Yep.
8900 was the
And,
pinnacle of the platform.
Was that the Bold?
No, the Curve 8900.
Oh, the Curve
That was
8900.
the one with the chrome
Oh,
surround.
yeah.
So
That was nice.
That one had like a cushy couch-like keyboard.
It's a tight looking
Oh wait,
phone.
no. I'm talking about a different one. Yeah, this one's really cool.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot.
And that was one of
so
the
this
last.
was the sequel. Yeah,
That was one of the last phones with one of the last BlackBerries with a trackball instead of a trackpad.
right. I was originally talking about the one with the chrome rows across it, or across each keyboard. That was right after the 8300.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Anyway, so you can type like a speed demon on these things, and it was the first time you could really communicate with your friends on a phone as if you were IMing.
Yeah.
And you could also send photos digitally instead of over MMS, which sucked.
True.
And I mean, you have to remember that, of course, iMessage didn't exist at this time, and
Yeah.
there weren't any apps like this that existed at the time, especially that all your friends probably had. And I remember a distinct period in my life, maybe sophomore year of college, where every single person I knew had a BlackBerry. And that was a really special time. It was maybe the only point in my life where everyone I knew, including my family members, was on the same messaging platform. You could group chat, you could have shared calendars, you could ping each other, you could screw around, and it was like bliss. It was messaging bliss.
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore.
iMessage is close.
iMessage is close
but it's
for a
not
lot
as
of
feature
people.
rich.
Right.
Yeah, by which you mean it still kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I still constantly get iMessages like 7 days later.
Right.
It's,
Yes.
it's really wonderful.
Lots of failed sends,
Yeah.
which I guess 703 is supposed to fix, but we'll see.
And so the verdict on BBM is that it's very underwhelming. It is not anywhere near as feature rich as any of the market leading apps, whether it be Hangouts or Line, WhatsApp especially, which amazingly I think 400 million people are using per month.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bonkers.
Is that in the U.S. or is that just
No,
everyone
that's
else
in
in
the
the world
world.
who's not? No, but I mean, like, are people in the U.S. using it?
I think WhatsApp is popular in the U.S.,
Okay.
but I mean, it's the de facto messaging app for a lot of places in the world. I mean, there are certain places in the world where everybody uses Kakao Talk or everybody uses Line.
Right.
Like in some places in Asia. But BBM is, people remember it as this thing that they loved that worked really well and was very fast. And now it's basically just an app that looks ported from BB10 with like little panes you could flip out. And there's just nothing special about it anymore.
Yeah, which is so ridiculous. Like, this was BlackBerry's
They had the
big
biggest
chance.
head start.
Like, well, and this is their best, probably their best IP at this point. The most useful thing BlackBerry offers to the
agree.
world is BBM. And if they had come out with like a killer app that people loved and got into and started using, and like I could convince all of my friends to go back to BBM if I wanted to, because everybody knows what it is. There was, like you said, there was this 2-year period of my life where everyone I knew had a BlackBerry, and it was the best.
Yeah.
It was so fast, but it's as janky as ever to try and friend somebody. You're like, here's my barcode, please scan my barcode. It takes 33 taps.
Scan me, baby.
And then there's like, to take a picture and send it, you have to go to get another picture, accept it, and then go back and then take a picture. It's the worst setup ever. And if they had just nailed this, it would have been the biggest win for BlackBerry that they would have needed. But
Why is
instead,
it so hard just to have a username?
I don't know.
So the thing that they missed was they
Security,
here's what I'm thinking: they decided not to do BlackBerry Messenger on other platforms because they thought this is one of our best features. Why would we put it for free on other platforms?
Because no one buys your phones.
I think for them with this, it was kind of a lose-lose. It was like they could either accelerate their own demise because their operating systems just weren't anywhere near on par with competitors,
Right.
or they could accelerate their own demise in another way by not offering it. And so what they ended up doing was just making it way too late, and it's just worthless.
Yeah, but like if I'm BlackBerry and I am looking for somebody to buy me, which they are, and I want Google, for instance, to think I'm worth buying, what better way to do it than to say, oh, you have Hangouts? We have the thing that is 100 times better than Hangouts. Buy us and we'll make Hangouts better. Like
Right.
Google can afford whatever BlackBerry costs just to make Hangouts better.
Yeah.
But instead, they're like, it's a slightly faster but really ugly and kind of terrible way.
Oh, you know
of
what?
doing
It
Hangouts.
works.
It does work.
It works, but I mean that's the hot
Once you
spot
figure
right
out how to friend
now
each
is
other.
messaging apps,
Right.
and there are a million of them. And anybody,
What do you use? You've used them all, I'm sure.
yeah,
Have
I've
you
used
like
them all.
actually landed on
Well,
them?
so there are a lot of apps with really great features. Some let you video chat and audio chat and do whatever you want.
Simultaneously.
I'm all for the all-in-one communication solution, and Hangouts is like moving towards that, but the iOS app is still really slow and doesn't load your conversation. So
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is, most of the people that I'm friends with and that are in my family are using iPhones, so we inevitably use iMessage, even though you can't even send your freaking location.
Yeah.
Like here I am, can't do it.
You know, you should use
Find my
Path.
friends.
Just
Find
use
my
Path.
friends.
I don't want to find friends with that.
No, 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 thank you.
So to answer your question, that's what I use. And there's so many great products out there. If you want people to move to your platform for messaging and convince all their friends to move, you got to be seriously compelling in the
Right.
feature department.
Yeah. Well, and you have to make it super easy. Like that's why a lot of people I know have started using Hangouts just because it's like, oh, I already have a Hangouts account because I use Gmail, and that's
Right.
so
Right.
easy. But now it's like, oh, I spent an hour yesterday trying to remember my BBM pin from 5 years ago because apparently it still works. If
Seriously?
you're out there, like if you remember it, apparently you can still like it's still associated with you. And I couldn't remember it because why the hell would I remember that?
Oh, I still know mine.
Do you really?
61CE. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like wow. No, but it's I don't know. I'm really mad at BlackBerry. And then apparently there were people astroturfing their reviews.
Yeah,
On
they
Android,
said
yeah.
they said it wasn't them. That's their official comment.
Yeah.
But
Well, they do have a very, very staunch group of supporters who may
Right,
have just
they do.
been, doing it independently. I get that.
And you know what's the funny part is some of these reviews said, I think it was the reviews were copy and pasted from the email, and one of the reviews was like, "Dear Ahmed, please post this BlackBerry review," and that was the actual name. And I was like, "Oh, that's sad."
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Well, the best case scenario, I think, is that BBM, this cross-platform BBM app is a stop loss for them. And they don't need a stop loss. They need a hit.
Right.
And this is not that.
Well,
not
they need a
only that-
buyer. Like I feel like that ship has sailed. Like BlackBerry
Yeah.
as a device maker, a company that can thrive and do great things is gone. Like I don't know how they come back from this.
Yeah.
Even like I think they get
BlackBerry
compared
OS
to
10.2 came out this week.
I just
Same.
don't think they have the talent. I mean, not only is the BlackBerry Messenger app not that good, but it's also not on every platform.
Right.
Like every other messaging app is. I mean, WhatsApp is on everything.
yeah. I mean, look, if
Everything.
you don't have a Windows Phone app, I don't even care.
I mean, WhatsApp, you got Nokia Asha.
Wow, is that
We
true?
got WhatsApp. You got the Nokia S40. You got Symbian. You got Windows Phone. You got BlackBerry. You got iPhone.
And that makes sense
That's
because,
crazy.
WhatsApp is really popular in a lot of emerging markets where Asha is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And BlackBerry is just, with Messenger, it's just insurmountable?
Insurmountable.
Both
Yeah.
in and
Insurmountable challenge for them with this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy, though, to think that everyone we knew, is there any one thing that all your friends use? I guess we all use a toothbrush. But
Well, I don't know that all
But
my
that's
friends
not a
use a
social-
toothbrush.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. It's entirely possible that I have friends who don't use a toothbrush.
every single friend used a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
All you had to do was keep them.
It's really true. But it's been a long time since that's been the case.
Was that
Maybe
the case
like
for you, Chris?
No. When I
No?
was in college, I was on, what phone did I have? I had like a Nokia 62 80 or whatever. Like,
Did you just snake for days?
yeah, Snake was our app. That was our only app.
What about during peak BlackBerry? What were you and your friends using?
I was never on BlackBerry. I went from S60 to Windows Mobile to iPhone.
Wait, was
And
the
to
Nokia
Android.
6280 the one with the slide out keyboard at the bottom?
No, it was
Because that was. Do you remember the phones in the Matrix where they would like pop them
yeah.
open and then be like, "Hello"? I wanted
I'm
that
in.
phone so bad, and Nokia
Yeah,
made
so
one
did
that
I.
was kind of like it, and I wanted it.
But
more
they made
than
it look
anything in the
more
entire world.
Matrix.
that was the, what did they call that series? Remember they had like a high end. It cost like $1,000. They
Yeah,
made it, but
that's
it cost,
why I didn't have
it cost
it,
like
yeah.
$1 billion.
I had like a $19 voice stream wireless phone back in the
Yeah.
day.
Right.
Oh, Samsung made it.
No, Samsung made
This one?
Samsung made the knockoff.
That phone right there, that's the one. I wanted that phone so bad.
No, dude, that's not even close. The one you wanted was the one
That phone
that
is
had
ridiculous.
The one you wanted had like it was the hardcover that was over the keypad, and it was on a spring-loaded
Oh,
mechanism,
yeah.
right? So you press the button and it went like that.
So you
That
know
was
what
the
I
one you
did
wanted.
was I bought was it the 3310? Was that the one that everyone on the planet
Yeah,
owned?
yeah.
So I had one of those, and then I bought on eBay a case with a little sliding cover on it for like it was like $4.99, and I bought one. Put it on, and then it didn't do anything. It was literally just a cover. But
Nice.
before I answered every phone call, I would like shoot it down and be like, "Hello," and then it broke after like 4 minutes.
Oh my God,
So-
there was the best
yeah.
Nextel phone.
Well, so that Samsung one was the fake one from the Matrix too.
Right.
So Samsung struck like a marketing deal with the Matrix, where it was a product placement thing, and they sold that phone on Sprint, and it sucked. It was the worst.
No, but I miss the days of BlackBerry being really cool.
Yeah, they had
and
such a head start at that time.
They did. I mean, and like I think BlackBerry gets compared to Nokia a lot, and it's totally wrong. Like I think Nokia is still, they're sort of low but rising, and they have all these other places they're doing great stuff. BlackBerry's just dead. Like there's just
interesting
nothing left for BlackBerry
is
to
that
do.
at that time, like all the phone software was bad compared to what would come a few years later. Once the iPhone totally threw a wrench into the like.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the Razor software?
Oh, hey, Tom,
Using a razor again, I wrote that status symbol for us.
Yeah.
Using a razor again was my favorite thing ever. I
Yeah.
forgot.
Razor's great,
It was
yeah.
so nice to just have
yeah.
a phone that
Although
was
the
like,
software is so bad.
Yeah,
on
it was-
it.
That's what I'm
it was
saying.
awful.
It was so bad, and they were able to become so popular because people they shifted kind of from targeting corporations to also targeting normal people because
Yeah.
people wanted to chat with their friends.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, they weren't really in a position to pivot past that for
Yeah.
great software.
I think if I remember correctly, the Razor was initially a singular exclusive that was $5.99
Yeah.
on contract.
Yep.
And I remember I worked with a guy. This was
it was a fashion
when I
phone.
worked at yes, a fashion phone. I worked
man.
with a guy at GE who bought his wife one of these for Christmas, and he's
Wow.
like, I'm like, dude, what are you doing spending $600 on a phone?
But I mean, you could throw it into a wall and it would stick like a knife.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean,
As they did in
At least in
commercials.
the advertisement.
Right.
At that time, it was like completely unprecedented for a phone to look like that. So Tom Warren just pointed out to me that the original Matrix phone was the Nokia 7110.
Man, Nokia was. Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the 7110. This was the one that you could just kind of
Yeah.
shoot down, and you had to like break the hinge a little to get it to shoot, and then it was great.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
old
apparently,
it was
days.
so bad.
they,
It was back when I made phone calls and I
Yeah.
memorized people's numbers. You know what I realized yesterday is that I have not memorized a person's number in probably 10 years. Like
Yeah.
I remember my girlfriend from 7th grade. I still remember her number.
Yeah.
But like I don't know anybody's number.
No, me
Which is
either.
terrible because if I'm ever in an emergency, they're gonna call my 7th grade girlfriend.
There's a startup.
and she's gonna have to like solve all these problems for me.
I just thought of a startup. So you have a number,
yeah.
and so here's what it is. So no matter where you are, you have your number, and you call it. Let's say it's only, I don't know, it's 5 digits or
And
whatever.
it's your
and
7th grade girlfriend.
And no.
They just direct you straight to her.
And it is a voice-activated interface that has your contacts built into it. And then you say, call dad or whatever, and then it puts you through. And
That's
it.
kind of a great idea.
And that's it. And it's just for emergencies. And
You just gave somebody this startup idea for free.
Patent
you should have
pending.
kept that up there, my
Yeah,
friend.
you gotta say patent pending. At the
Yeah.
end. That solves all your problems.
patent pending.
It's okay. We'll get our very scary legal.
That's kind
team
of a cool idea,
after
though,
That is
right?
a cool idea. I guess.
Yeah.
I'd use it like once and then forget that it existed because I'd forget the number is the problem.
Well, I
Like
think
I don't
It
remember
would be
numbers.
like 1-800 David Rules or something like that. Like you could pick it out.
Wait, if everyone has to call 1-800-DAVID rules, I'm in. Like I'm 100% in on this startup.
it's like Angie's List, David Rules.
right, exactly.
You know, yeah. I think there was this changeover moment where all of a sudden every phone was connected to some like online contact storage service, whether it be Google, whether it be
Yep.
iCloud, whatever, and then like phone numbers just ceased to matter. But before that, every time you changed phones, it was like this epic like disaster because you needed to move all of your contacts over by hand, and it made more sense to know phone numbers back then.
Right.
But now it's just like, you know, I log into whatever and boom, everything is there.
Right. Well, and now I've always done this thing with people's names where I'm like, "Hi, I'm David," and then as they're saying hi, I'm just like off somewhere else, not paying attention. And
Yeah.
then not only do I not know their name, I just never learned it.
Yeah.
Should have bumped
It's
with them.
the same. No.
That's because you're wearing Google
There's your
Glass.
startup. You should get bumped to buy your startup, and then you're golden.
Bump? Who bought Bump?
Did somebody
Google.
buy? Oh yeah, Google
bought
bought
him.
Bump.
Yeah.
So basically, we all work for Google now.
Yes.
That just happened.
That is where we're going. with
Congratulations, we're all billionaires.
That could be cool, by the way. I mean, in maybe 2 versions of Android ahead, you get Google Bump.
Built
and
in.
you, that's how you can share whatever you want. I mean, you can already do that with Beam.
Yeah.
Is that a Samsung feature?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
S-Beam.
Right. So that feels like it could very much be.
No, but
a
Android
standard
Beam
feature.
is
Oh, that's true. Android Beam is a
built-in
thing. Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I remember somebody at Samsung telling me this. Apparently, Android Beam sucks. Of course, they're biased, but I think the explanation was that Android Beam doesn't have like any like conduits to actually transfer like anything useful. And
Also, NFC is just dead.
it is.
I want
there
it
are
to
all
be
these-
cool so badly, and it's just dead.
There are all these startups now that are doing the same thing, but with audio. Klinkle, which I can't. I mean, every time
Wait,
I
is
say
that a
Klinkle-
Say it
thing?
again.
Yeah,
I have to
Klinkle.
pee now. Now that you said that.
Yeah, and then there's Bump. There's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they're all doing is they're using audio, or they're just using your location, which for most places besides New York City is pretty fine.
Yeah. That's fair, I guess.
They know you're in the Chipotle.
Right.
But whereas in New York, you're walking down the street and they're like, "Are you in Chipotle, or are you in the Duane Reade,
Right, there
or
are
are you at work?"
160 places you
Because
could be.
there's 10 places in one building, Sim Tower
Yeah.
style.
So you're saying those are the 3 places you go. You go to Chipotle, Duane Reade, and work.
That's
where
that
you
was a
find Ellis
Freudian slip.
hamburgers.
That was a
Yeah.
Freudian slip.
I mean, that does kind of
Just a
like meet,
rotation.
that does kind of meet all of your needs when you think about it. I mean, where would you have to go in life besides Chipotle, Duane Reade, and work?
Nowhere.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
So, yeah, NFC is just getting blown away by all. I mean, if you look at what Square's doing, which
Yeah.
is quickly becoming the mobile marketplace payments king, at least for indie merchants, they have no interest in NFC.
No, I feel like NFC is going to keep being cool for tapping, pairing like your phone
Yeah.
with a speaker or something.
We all
And
love
it's-
the
it's
idea
not-
of it. It's
right.
just this figuring out the security with every carrier and every phone manufacturer has just clearly proven to be too
God,
much
but
of a
like every
challenge.
other way of moving stuff between like my phone and your phone is terrible. AirDrop is the worst.
So,
I hate AirDrop.
I had a handspring, since we're going retro today, I had a handspring visor, and
that was another thing I really wanted.
it was just the
and couldn't afford,
coolest.
so I bought, like, a
I
crappy
would
Palm.
get my friend's Palm Pilot or whatever on an adjacent desk, and we would just line them up perfectly. Kind of like, you remember in like Star Trek Into Darkness? I can't believe I'm referencing this movie.
I've blocked
but
that out of my brain.
When Kirk and I don't want to spoil it, but anyway, there's a ship jump. There's a ship jump between 2 ships,
Yeah.
and that's what you had to do with the 2 Palm Pilots with the infrared readers, and you could send 16 kilobytes or whatever you want to do, and it was great.
And that was probably the best system that has existed since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything else is just terrible.
Yeah. There
So
was-
speaking of sci-fi,
But you can scan my barcode.
we should hit on Star Wars really quick, huh?
Okay.
Actually, before we do that,
or do you
Chris,
wanna hit
Chris,
something
you have to go
first?
get on an airplane.
I
So
have
we
I
have to kick
get
you
on
out.
So there are 2 things going on here. One, I have to get on an aircraft, and 2, my replacement, the lovely and talented Ross Miller, is far more.
Would we
of a
call
Star
him
Wars.
lovely?
I think he's lovely.
I feel like he's more ruggedly handsome than he is.
You can be lovely and
you?
handsome and rugged. I think
That's the Ross Miller experience,
yeah,
right
lovely
there.
and rugged.
Lovely and rugged.
That's gonna be the name of his debut album, by the way.
I'm in. I
So-
pre-ordered it just
so
now.
Ross is more of a Star Wars. Well, before the show started, he's like, I have a lot to say about this. So I'm gonna let him talk about this. I'm gonna step away
I can see him over there. He's like
This is
twitching.
Ross's time.
Yeah.
Ross
He
is,
wants to talk
Ross
about it
is
so
gonna
bad.
pull an
But-
Evan Rogers and just ninja his way onto the set here, and then he'll just magically appear.
But it has been absolutely fantastic chatting with you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And I wish you.
It's been medium, I would say.
Are you actually
Yeah,
leaving right now?
medium.
Is this it?
I'm literally walking downstairs and
All
getting
right,
a
dude.
cab.
See you soon, I guess.
Yeah.
Travel safe.
Very soon. I'm not going to shake your hand because I just don't respect you as much as I respect my
That's
man
fair.
Alice.
I understand. Look, you guys are BBM bros, and I'll just sit here and not.
I
be
have
a BBM
Ellis's
bro.
ID memorized. It's not true.
So does Ellis. Meanwhile, all I have is my 7th grade
You mean
girlfriend's
my
phone
pin?
number.
Yeah, your PIN,
Oh, okay, good.
your hex, your 8-digit hex code.
So that's the only way you can identify humans in the future. This is my
That's
friend
deep.
C1640E.
All right, bye, Chris. Thank you very
All right,
much.
Chris. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Okay, wait, Ellis. Here's my theory. You don't know my theory? You just made me think of something. So, we've written a bunch of times about like having the one true identification thing.
Yeah.
Where instead of your phone number and your email address and your BlackBerry PIN, BlackBerry kind of had that. Like that was my thing. That was the thing I gave to everybody so that we could be friends.
They had your ID.
Then they did. That was all I needed. It was some stupid, numeric thing that I didn't know.
Are we still talking
anymore.
about BlackBerry
We
here?
are. I have a lot of thoughts about BBM.
I don't know about talking about that.
It
BlackBerry
turns out
stuff,
I'm
but-
really angry at BBM
Yeah.
for not being great, and
We don't get to
I
talk
didn't
about
realize-
we don't get
Still?
to.
It's just, it could be so good. I'm so tired of text messaging from my
Let
phone.
it go. Man.
I'm so tired of it.
Thanks, Will. Everyone on Earth is like down on BlackBerry right now.
No, but so
Just
okay,
be
so
nice.
I don't. It's
Just
not even
love
BlackBerry's
BlackBerry.
fault. It's
Learn to
just
love it.
everyone's fault because I wanted BlackBerry to solve this. So I was sitting with I was texting with a buddy last night who I haven't talked to in forever, and he texted me. He's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "Oh no, this is gonna take me so long to respond to." And then I'm sitting there on my phone texting for like
Well, how much
four
did you
and a
have to
half
say?
hours.
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
No, we have a
That's really
we have
insincere,
a deep
Ross,
and loving
unless you mean
relationship.
that.
Don't
I
ever
told
text
him-
me, Ellis.
I
You'll
told-
get very short, curt responses.
All right, fine. Let's talk about Star Wars.
Hold
Ross,
on.
tell me about Star Wars.
I want to talk about Star Wars.
No.
I have something I have to call you out. I'm
Oh,
very
you
angry
do?
at you. I'm
okay,
very
Ross is
mad
mad
at
me.
you.
Let's talk about this.
First off, how are you? Tell me about your commute in the morning. Because I
I'm-
read about your commute this morning.
Well-
And you know what you do? You open your laptop
Dude,
on
I'm
the
that
subway.
guy. I am so
Why?
unabashedly that guy.
Do not
You
be
do
that
not.
guy.
You
It
serious?
is a
I do
crowded
now.
subway, and you're that jerk sitting down with your laptop open playing Portal 2.
Yeah, it was the best. Okay, so I'm on the subway.
Wait, is that for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that happened.
Well, it's not like you're like writing reviews or whatever. You're playing Portal.
That's the thing.
You are one
That's
step
real.
away from the guy who plays World of Warcraft at Starbucks with a desktop tower.
Yeah, I have no
That
problem
guy's
with that.
badass.
I
I
like
like
that
that
guy.
guy.
I would like
But-
to be friends with that guy. No, so I'm on the subway yesterday, coming to work, and first they delay my subway, then they redirect it, so I have to switch subways. Then they delay my other subway. Everybody else on the subway furious. I'm just sitting there. I was like, cool. I got like an hour and a half to play Portal now. It was the best.
What about
it
the
was like
old-
the best part of my whole day was being delayed on
What
the subway.
about the old woman,
because
the
I had a
pregnant
MacBook Pro.
woman, the blind man, the guy
There
with
are
like, what
so
are you
many other
doing?
seats, and I'm so comfortable
How
that
do you
it's
have a
just not
not
even my
crowded
problem.
commute? What train are you using? What magical time are you going to work where it's not completely crowded?
Oh no, it's completely crowded. And I put in headphones and then it's not my problem anymore. That's all. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's talk about Star Wars.
Let's talk about Star Wars.
Tell me about Star Wars. What happened
There's
to Star
not much
Wars?
to say about Star Wars except that they just completely changed the writers over. So
Yeah.
they announced the
Minor
cast. It's a
detail.
little bit thing. Michael Arndt, who actually has a great career, did Toy Story 3. He
Little
did
Miss
Little Miss Sunshine.
Yep.
He's
Great
out.
movie.
No one knows why. But
Really? He just
we don't know.
gone?
We'll find out.
He's
Sure,
good.
we'll
It's
find
not
out.
like he's
very
like some
good.
hack that they got rid of once
But
they had money.
They did
Right.
get Lawrence Kasdan, who, as we know, wrote and directed Dreamcatcher, the Stephen King terrible horror movie.
Yeah.
He also did Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's a good. All right. So it's a good cast. Tim, J.J. Abrams has a
He'll do
writing
it.
credit, whatever that means.
Right.
It just means I have input. I'm sure. I don't know if he's actually getting down with the script and like the
I
dialogue.
bet he is. I mean, this is the most pressure in the world.
Yeah, it really is.
And so the difference between
this and like the last episode of Lost are the most terrifying things he'll ever
Except
do.
he
Yeah.
didn't write that, did
Well,
he?
and he blew the last episode of
I don't.
Lost.
He didn't have to
no,
do with
he
it,
was
though.
he was hands off after Lost's first
Yeah, no,
season.
he
I
was.
think.
He literally
But,
like that's the J.J. Abrams way. Here's a mystery box. Bye.
exactly.
Like,
did you guys like
Fringe is good.
Did you guys like Star Trek?
Don't watch the end of
movie,
Which one?
the first one.
Yeah, the reboot. Yeah, I like that.
So
Yeah.
So like, I thought that on the first Star Trek, JJ's like, I'm at the helm of a really important franchise. I'm gonna try hard.
Right.
And when he tries hard, he can do amazing
Yeah.
stuff. And I thought that Into Darkness was a lot scrappier. And like I still enjoyed parts of it, but it just didn't feel like
No.
the level of effort from
No,
JJ was
the
on
second
there.
time he was like,
And so you know
I got
what?
this.
I'm happy this is happening. I think that dude is a smart dude. And I'm glad that it's completely within his control now as the director and perhaps co-writer.
So, but should we be worried that there's all this weird upheaval on Star Wars? I feel like Star Wars needs to be perfect, and everybody needs to be in control, and everything needs to be great.
I don't think this is as bad as like the Prometheus last minute release. Scott brings in Damon Lindelof to kind of screw up the whole Alien engineer script and not make it kind of like Aliens, but kind of make it like Aliens. I don't think so. I mean, they brought Lawrence Kasdan, who's a Star Wars veteran. Everyone loves him.
Yeah.
I honestly think, I don't know if it was Michael Arndt not wanting to be in it, but they just found someone better. It's so early. They're not shooting until spring 2015. They can screw with the script until then. They can screw with the script after that. Special effects are amazing these days.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's bad news. There's not much else to say about it except one's out, one's in.
So it's worth pointing out that if I'm on the I'm on
Mumford.
I'm on the Internet Movie Database right now. It's a website.
You may have heard of it.
Thanks, so if you look at Lawrence, I'm on here all the time, and then I look, and then because it's always available, I forget
Owned
what
by
I just
Amazon.
looked at.
Fun fact.
Is it really?
True story.
Look at that, man.
Smart.
Bezos.
It's super possible I just lied about that.
So apparently,
no, I'm right. Did it.
Apparently, Lawrence Kasdan has directed a couple things I've never heard of in the last 10 years. But in terms of writing, this dude's been pretty off the map since I guess I hadn't heard of Dreamcatcher. But
I do not recommend Dreamcatcher. I really don't. But everything else here is wonderful. He did Mumford, which is actually kind of good.
It was
White
20
Earth,
years
The
ago.
Bodyguard.
Do you know these movies?
I know a lot of these movies.
You're just making that up.
I guess I was
What?
3 when that
No.
one came out.
Yeah.
Anyway, the dude's kind of been off the map for a while. Hopefully he's
Fair.
still got it in him.
I mean, I think he'll be okay.
You can either write or you can't write.
Right, exactly.
So that's a good thing for them.
This is wonderful.
That was deep thoughts from Ellis Hamburger.
What they got to do is JJ and Lawrence, they got to get on YouTube and look up all those videos about like 10 ways to make the new Star Wars good. And they got to do all those things.
I mean, isn't the first one in all of those things like murder George Lucas?
Yeah.
Kill Jar Jar.
He was blinded by lens flare. No, I can't. JJ's not doing lens flare anymore. He called himself out for it. So
Did he?
Well,
He
that's
did.
they
That
got the
happened?
same
I love
did.
the lens flare. And it's the same director
of photography, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they're going to want to.
There's going to be so much.
And they got
lens flare.
John Williams doing the score, of course, which is always going to be
Yeah, I
great.
mean, this is like all of the big
like,
deal
none
people.
of this is going to matter. Like the big news are
Their
going to come out
budget
after
must be
this is like
absurd.
we'll get the casting probably sometime next year, Marchish, Aprilish. We'll start hearing some things outside of what I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a part of it. Maybe
Sure.
I might be making that up.
He's in every movie.
He
He's
is.
like the new Jude Law, where you're like, oh, Benedict Cumberbatch is in this.
You know what's always funny to me is that when the movie comes out, let's say we all think Benedict Cumberbatch is having a super hot time right now in theaters, right? He's in everything. But you know when he was in everything? 2 years ago when they signed him for all these movies in a row. That's how long these things have been in production.
That's true, right?
And that's what's crazy to me is it's almost like when you're looking at, I'm not going to make that stupid. I was going to make a comparison about like when you see a
No, do it.
star.
You have to now.
When you see a star, it's actually that star what it used to look like
beautiful.
because it doesn't look like that anymore. That was stupid.
wow.
Thank you.
This is the Red Dwarf acting.
You're getting
But
kinda
that's what's
like
crazy.
idea.
metaphysical here.
Is,
I'm enjoying this.
Cumberbatch, his agent was going bonkers a year and a half, 2
Yeah.
years ago. It's not like he's, doing all these movies now. It's
True.
like these were all made a while ago, and I bet everybody was talking about him back then, and then he's in everything before you know it.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
He was like, what I do is Sherlock. That's pretty good. You should give me tons of movies. And it worked. Sherlock's awesome. If you
Sherlock
haven't seen
is
it,
one
by
of
the
those.
way.
Coming back. It's
for
Sherlock
those
back.
for those people who don't have the article or who they haven't read it, they've got the director of photography from Star Trek Into Darkness. They've got the costume designer from Fight Club. All right.
There's so much blood and guts and bruises everywhere.
I was going to say, are there costumes? I feel like everyone's just shirtless in athletic
Yeah.
shorts beating the crap out
Oh,
of
in
each other.
Fight Club.
In Fight Club, yeah.
Are there costumes in Star Wars?
And so
I imagine
here's a
there's
good
a
they're
one.
all shirtless. in
Here's
Star
a good
Wars.
one.
Yeah. Like
for
the blood
anybody,
designer, I'd be all in on.
Yeah, for anybody who's into movies knows the production designer is very important. They basically design all the sets, all the props, and things like that. They've got the dude from Avatar and Lincoln, which is good.
Sure.
Good world building.
Sure.
They've got another production designer from Oblivion and Tron Legacy. So Cool's going to be shiny.
We're getting into the weeds. We now know the production
Oh, but we
staff,
love
though.
the weeds.
We love the weeds, but this is getting like, okay, he did Oblivion. It's going to be pretty and science fiction and futuristic. It lights.
Wait, okay, can we just be honest? This movie's definitely going to suck, right? Like, it's just going to be bad.
This is going to be
It's not
awesome.
gonna suck.
It's going to be amazing.
There's no way. You
Why?
can't. Star Trek,
You're saying
I think,
you can't fulfill the expectations.
I think no one can make a good Star Wars movie. That's my theory.
No,
I don't
no.
think. I think
You're
Star
thinking
Wars.
about it wrong.
Star Wars is in this like pantheon maybe, but it would be like making another Godfather movie. Actually, no, they made a terrible Godfather movie.
If Godfather had lightsabers, then yes, that would be awesome.
No, but they like Star Trek. There's so much Star Trek that they could do it. You can do different and do it well. Like it's a big enough universe that there's places you can go with it.
Star Wars universe is not that big.
Star Wars universe.
No, what I'm like
Tons of games,
the canon
books,
of Star
Steve
Wars is
Zahn,
not,
all
but
that
like,
stuff.
The Star Wars is still 3 movies. Like you can talk about everything else, but Star Wars
It's
is
5
3 movies. No, it's not. It's
It
3
is 5.
movies.
Episodes 2 through 6.
No,
They never made a 1. It's okay.
no.
I forgive
1,
them.
2,
I'm
and
always curious
3
what it
are
looked like, but I never saw it.
No, no. Anything with Hayden Christensen in it is not a movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Shattered Glass.
It's like a
Done. And that's the Verge.
just get out. No, but so like I really don't think this movie has any chance of being any good. And I think it's going to be so overwhelming. They're going to have so much money. They're going to have so much like canon they have to deal with, but also get away from, but also deal with, and like the expectations. I just don't think. I feel for J.J. Abrams. I think he's totally screwed.
I just can't wait for we do one movie with no lightsabers. Not even existing.
It'd be
yet.
amazing. Just change every single character. They're like, this is called Star Wars, and it's actually about
we got
today.
Vulcans.
It's a rom-com with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zoe Deschanel.
And Tom
It's a
Hardy.
500 Days of Summer sequel.
Yeah.
It's called
Have you
Star
read
Wars.
any of the books, the Star Wars books?
It's been a long time.
Because there are a lot that people consider. There are a few of them that people consider to be really good.
Yeah.
And
I know the one that was like always big was Shadows of the Empire. They made
Shadows
that
of the
into
Empire.
a video game. A great video game back in
Yeah.
the days when like controllers had 3 prongs. The D-pad, the joystick, the buttons. You've run into 64 controllers.
yeah.
It's the best thing ever.
Wait, is there a subtitle for Episode 7 yet? Or is it just called Star Wars Episode 7 so far?
I think it's just episode 7.
Okay. But like,
Which they have to write it now because they now have new writers.
right. So presumably whatever they've been doing, they're like, we're gonna try this again.
Right.
And then Damon Lindelof is gonna come in at the last minute and just ruin everything. And then there we're gonna be.
I can't
This
believe
is my theory.
how
It's gonna be
much
bad.
money
So
the movie is
gonna be
down on
bad.
Damon Lindelof.
It's gonna be a bad movie.
Man, you're just hating all over the place today.
No, I like Damon Lindelof fine. I just think Prometheus was a bad movie.
That was a
And
bad
so
movie.
now I get to make fun of him for the rest of my life. Those are the rules. If you make a bad movie that I go see at midnight the night it comes out and it sucks, I get to make fun of you for the rest
Well,
of
if
my
we're
life.
talking about creative works that get published at midnight and you have to go take your time to see it, I have a few reviews from Windows phones that I've seen you do that I really want to hate you forever for.
I mean, that's fine. You can make fun of me for the rest of my life, as long as I get to do it to Damon Lindelof.
David, does
Deal.
it feel good in the hand? That's all
Oh,
I
it
want
feels
to know.
so. Damon Lindelof
In the
feels
hand.
terrible in the hand. That's just everybody should know that.
Is there anything else we want to bring up today?
We should talk about Netflix.
Let's talk about Netflix.
Netflix is doing some crazy things.
It is now bigger than HBO
Which
They
is
are
in
massive.
US subscribers.
what is it? 30 million subscribers they have now.
I think so, something like
I think
that.
that's the number.
Look, you guys have a
31.1
fast
million.
laptop. I've got my Nexus
31.1
here.
million US subscribers. That's a crazy number. And like nobody talks about Netflix, which is weird. Their stock did this,
Nobody talks about Netflix.
but it as like a huge, crazy, amazing company. Like they get a lot of credit for the shows they make and stuff. But as a
Right.
company, nobody really talks about them that much. But their stock is up.
Right.
It's a record.
You know what I love
It's-
about this graph?
They did $1 billion in revenue last quarter. Like they're
Yeah. So if you
crazy.
look at like the stock graph, that little line chart, I love this. You know why? Because you can see exactly when Quickster was announced.
yeah. There should just be a line that's
like,
like,
oh,
Quickster.
DVDs. We don't know what we're doing here. Let's just
Yeah.
give it a new name.
Where
and then
Quickster?
tanked.
Where did Quickster come from?
But
Call
all the
it
same,
anything
they
else.
moved past that. Sarandos,
Yeah.
one of the chief executive officers, not the CEO, he's one of the chief officers. Obviously, Reed Hastings, they pulled this off. Good for them.
Reed Hastings.
You know what's crazy to me
New
about
CEO of
Netflix
Microsoft.
is that
They still have DVD subscribers?
yeah.
like 12 of
Wow.
them, I think.
So
My parents.
What's
are, like,
amazing
the
to me
only
is
ones
that
left.
like okay, so true or false, in 20 years, people only pay for the content that they want, a la carte. In other words,
false.
20
No.
years is that too soon?
Never.
It's never gonna happen.
Never.
As long as we have cable companies, no, that's
No,
Well-
I think the Netflix gets a lot of credit for
what
disrupting the cable
startups
industry,
do.
but like they're doing the same thing.
That's what
It's just
startups
cheaper.
try and do is decouple these things that you don't need from the things that you want and try and streamline this experience. Because I mean, does that make sense that this stuff is bundled? Like in some regards, it did a while ago. And it's a lot harder to, let's say, start a new network if nobody has access to it for free.
Right.
I mean, if you look at AMC, like cable subscribers, when they watched AMC, they helped AMC become a powerhouse because they watched it. And it's not like you can just free trial something online, except you can. In some
but
cases.
here's the thing. So like, and we had talked to Neil. I did an interview with someone. We'll have to up like later this month, but or next month rather. No, but like the thing is, the cable companies when they started out and like trying to build these networks, they needed channels.
Right.
It's like they came to the channel saying we need your help. At some point, the tables turned, and like you have someone like a USA, and it's like, look, I'll put my channel on here, but you've got to get Bravo on also. Look, I know no one's watching it, but you just got to trust me. So the bundle kind of came to exist, and the networks and the channels, they have the power to do that. They're not going to get rid of that too, because they need the extra money to get ESPN2 and ESPN College and ESPN Cricket.
Which almost definitely exists.
It will exist.
No, I mean,
one
the
day.
thing is, like, I think and people continue to do, studies and look into this. And ultimately, if you wanted, let's say, if you just wanted ESPN, if you're like, screw the rest of this, I just want ESPN, that would probably be cheaper than your current cable bill. But if you're like, I want ESPN and HBO and the broadcast networks and USA Today and Jersey Shore reruns on MTV, like, that's already probably more expensive than your cable
So you're
bill,
saying
And so,
it's
like, there's just no
advantageous
incentive for
to
anyone
wholesale
to do
it
that.
as the consumer.
Yeah.
So you're saying in a way it's better for the consumer the way that it is
Well,
right
so it
now.
depends. Like,
That's something I hadn't
As long as
considered.
I
What
flip
I
through the
hope-
History Channel, I'm going to get a discount on ESPN.
Right. No, I mean, that's the thing is ultimately I think what might happen is you might start to see the really popular networks like ESPN and HBO start to go a la carte. And we're seeing bits and pieces of that from some of these companies. But like the History Channel is never going to go a la carte because people wouldn't pay for the History Channel, but people want to watch the History Channel.
I say that, but
Not enough people
they do
would
have
pay.
Game of Thrones with Vikings now.
But not enough people would
That's
pay
awesome.
for it's fair. But not enough people would pay for it to keep it around in the way that it exists now. And it's just not like, I think it's ultimately better, and I think people watch more TV and aimlessly channel surf a lot more than they realize. I certainly do. It's like if I were to guess what I watch, it would probably be 6 channels. And then if I were to map what I actually watch, it would probably be 60 channels.
Yeah, no, so
and by the time you get to there, it's just not, it's never going to make sense to pay a la carte for that.
I am so scared to get cable, by the way. That reminds me, I am so scared to get it.
I love having
can't.
cable. I've had cable for
My
a
life
month
will
now,
be
and it
over.
is the best.
I go on vacation.
It's so great.
I go on vacation. Hotels have cable. I forget to go to the beach. I am watching House Hunters. Why am I watching House? It is so addicting. Who pays this much when you're a 17-year-old college student in France on a freaking summer abroad, and you're like, I want to buy a place? Where do you get that money?
No,
That's how it's addicting.
Fair. No, I think the real future of cable is what Netflix is doing, essentially, which is to say you pay us one price and you get it everywhere. Like, it's eventually going to be, your cable won't just be on your TV at home, or you have to super clunky stream it through a Slingbox to an Apple TV to a Roku to something else. Like, you'll just pay for it and get it everywhere. And ESPN is doing that. Like, having one, I pay like $110 for cable a month, which is ridiculous. But it's also like, now I can watch ESPN anywhere I am from any browser at any time. All I have to do is log in, and it's the best. And that's what Netflix is. Like, that's how Netflix got where it is by saying, we pay us $8 a month and you can watch everything everywhere all the time. And that's like, that's the easiest argument to make ever.
Yeah, and when you look at, like,
other people are going to see that coming. Like, as Netflix gets bigger and starts doing more original programming, companies like ESPN are going to start to attack from the opposite point, where they're like, we have the programming, now we're going to give you it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think what HBO is, HBO makes more money staying bundled and not, pissing off the networks. And I get that. And I think every old channel
Bundled?
is going to, or like premium, like they get money from them. You pay extra, but you have to pay for cable as well.
Right.
Like, you can't just say, I want, over the air.
Right. That's the reason
bunny
they're not
ears
going to
on
go
HBO.
solo.
Right, because they get money out of it. It's a better economic deal. If you're a new channel, though, or a new network, I think you do think of this digital first strategy. You think of this a la carte. Like, there are channels I didn't realize existed, but Hulu tells me they exist. And like, they have deals there, and they're advertising there.
Right.
And like, I think these channels of the future, they're not going to be bundled because they don't have to worry about that business model. You've never had to be able to lean on that.
Right, but
if
then
you're
it's
an
also
ABC,
like, but you pay for Hulu.
Yeah.
To get it anywhere other than in your browser with only a few things.
Exactly,
You pay for Hulu.
those those channels are like bundled to that.
Yeah.
So it's lose-lose.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so we should go.
Let's wrap this.
and leave these poor people alone. We're very sorry. We love you all.
They're watching on
and
their own
we're very
accord.
sorry.
Do not.
But so we
You
have
guys
some
deserve this.
housekeeping.
You had
So
to
first
come.
of all, this is Polygon's first birthday.
Yep.
Which is ridiculous. I feel like Polygon has been around my entire life. I don't remember the world before Polygon.
You mean like those 6 months you were hired before Polygon launched?
Yeah, it was like a day and a half. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. And next week is a big week for us.
Yes.
And
It's
you know
our-
more about this than I do.
Well, there's not much more to say. Next week is Vergecast 100, which is a huge deal.
It's our 100th Vergecast, just to be super clear.
100th Vergecast.
Which is a
Episode
lot.
100. We didn't skip
We're doing
anything.
100 Vergecasts
all
on
at
one
once.
day.
It is a power hour of Vergecasts. So much hair checking, so many microphones, just dropping everywhere. No, it's our 100th episode. That's a cool deal. It's also happens to be the same day as our anniversary, our 2-year anniversary. So we're a little excited. We're going to do a couple special things. You'll see. Josh will be back. Neil will be back. They were out just wanted a day off.
Naked on a beach somewhere.
Naked on a beach.
Ever since
There's
Josh
gotta
brought
be
that
a
up,
better
I just
excuse than
assumed
that.
that Josh is naked on a beach
So
somewhere.
no, Josh is actually out killing a family, like he always promised.
Well, sure.
So we'll have the carcasses next week. It's a special deal. It's a special Vergecast.
That's
he
fair.
finally makes good.
He's
No.
going to bring the family here and prove to everyone what's going on.
No, absolutely.
Anyway.
So that is the Vergecast.
That's the
unfortunately.
Vergecast. You can email us and tell us how terrible everything is about us.
And they will.
Especially Chris Ziegler.
They will.
If you hate Chris Ziegler, email us at vergecast@verge.com. I'm Pierce David on Twitter, a fact for which I am deeply, deeply sorry. Ellis is at Hamburger, the best thing that has ever happened to Twitter. And Ross is Ono Roscoe for reasons beyond all
No
of us.
E, and I'm not sorry at
No
all.
E. Is there somebody with an E? Can you get the E and just be like, hey, just
Someone
kidding
got
on
it
the
for
other
me,
Ono
and that just
Roscoe?
redirects.
That's
and
so
I
nice.
appreciate whoever that is. Just tell me, because
Good
I just want
people.
to thank you.
Good job, everybody on the internet. And that's it. And we wish the very, very best to you and your family, unless Josh is out killing you right now, in which case we're very sorry.
Paul.